So I work for Whyte Mackay. I've been here 4 years. I work in international category, so pretty much every market other than the UK. Absolutely fabulous job. Anybody who works in, I don't like to say my team, in our team, if you like the same thing 2 days in a row or 2 hours in a row, don't come and work for me. It's mental, it's crazy, it's brilliant. 1 minute you're in Brazil, the next minute it's Australia. So fascinating job. And who are Whyte Mackay? So for me, I'm looking at the single malt category. That's sort of my focus across different markets. Across the team we split up. I manage US and Canada and Australia.
But as BoltChatAI, we're on a mission to change how businesses connect with their consumers. We work mainly with brands. I'm coming from marketing background. I used to work in one of the leading FMCG companies for around 15 years, worked in different geographies. And now, to be honest, what we created is a tool that we wished we had when we were doing our marketing on the brand side. To start with some icebreakers, I would like to, I know this is a funny one, but I would like to ask this question. How many of you are asking your loved ones, partners, how much do you love me on a scale of 1 to 10? I hope not many of you. And the reason why I'm asking this question is, we don't ask this to our partners, but we ask this question a lot to consumers who are also real human beings, right? We believe conversation reveals the true depth of human behavior. In some cases, yes, closed-end questions and surveys can be helpful to unlock some insights. But in reality, it's not the most natural way, and go really deeper into people's mind and understand the insights. And now, especially with the power of conversational AI and AI, it's much easier to have conversations with people and understand the real insights behind what they do, why they do it. And research is moving into that era now. It started with door-to-door, then phone interviews, and now it's pretty much online surveys. And I think we lost a lot of that conversation that used to happen even with door-to-door and phone interviews. It became a bit of a blind box-ticking exercise. And now with AI, we believe with AI human conversations, the future of research will be much more qual at scale, powered by conversational AI, because we have that capability to do it at bigger scale. So what we did is we've trained our AI moderator by, first of all, we had manual conversations with real people, expertly moderated, and we used that to train our AI model to have really AI moderated high quality human conversations, AI created actionable reports, so that our clients can get depth of qual with the scale of quant. And BoltChatAI, very quickly, in 4 steps, it's an AI-powered qual at scale platform. It works in first step, you just log in, it's a use-based platform, you get credits, you can start up a project by just defining your target audience, setting your custom screeners, giving a brief 1-paragraph objective of what you want to achieve with your research, and immediately it creates a discussion guide, which you can still customize, add your own questions, give further probing instructions, add stimulus like photos, videos for AI to show to people and get feedback on. And once you're happy with your discussion guide, which by the way you can edit in local language as well as English, AI goes out and recruits people through all the panel providers that we're connected with, screens them based on your target audience definition. It really engages people into a really good, well-moderated conversation. So every conversation is unique. I mean, the power of AI is it can speak to multiple hundreds of people at the same time and only pick the ones that have the highest quality, most insightful conversations. So it can actually warn people, disqualify them if they're not giving really insightful answers. And depending on their answers, it decides to probe. It can use even projective techniques to really get the depth and color and richness of insights that you can get by talking to people. And then once all those interviews are over, it creates an AI-generated report, which has executive summaries, key insights, a thematic like statistical analysis as well. It picks key quotes to support that summary. And then it's also interactive. You can talk to your AI moderator just as you would do in a manual traditional call. You can actually ask questions. Has anybody mentioned X, Y, Z? How many people mentioned this brand? or even ask creative questions by asking what are the top 5 ideas to make this campaign idea better or concept better. So you can really interact with your report even like 6 months after you receive it. And the good thing is all this happens in 24 hours. So the power of the tool is, as long as it's like 5% and above incidence rate, we deliver brief to report in 24 hours. It works in many different countries, which we can share this after. But in terms of use cases, this could be used in, a lot of our clients use it in idea testing, concept testing, early stage creative testing, like Whyte Mackay does as well, like market exploration, really understanding very quickly gross negatives, positives, finding growth spaces in different countries, clubbing it with some quantitative work as well, so that you understand what to validate in a quant or after a quant. I'm sure many of you have like hypotheses or stuff that you want to understand further, which you can again use the tool to get deeper into some of the hypotheses you generate, or as part of your consumer centricity programs. Finally, what I want to leave you with before I pass it on to Connor is we're also working towards a model which is we call autopilot innovation. Imagine when you connect this tool with social listening, your internal data, and other data sources that you have. With the power of AI, you can actually have an autopilot engine where you define some insights and then create projects out of those, talk to real people to get the why behind some of those signals and trends, understand better, and use that again to feed into a concept creation engine where you can actually create product concepts, product ideas by using AI to talk to people, get real human feedback, and work on those signals and have a much faster idea phase in your innovation lifecycle. And with that, I'll hand over to Connor.
Every so often, we all get or see a piece of software or see a bit of research and we think that could be a game changer. I don't use this lightly because I'm a sort of optimistic, grumpy person. People say, you're very grumpy, but I'm very optimistic. My pint glass is 3/4 full. And every so often that game changer turns into realization. And this, for us, Bolt is that reality. So because we're a small team, we want to be an agile team because we've got so many markets to look at. And this sort of bridges that gap of sort of longer term research. So just to give you an example, they're evolving their products. Lots of people evolve their products, but they're evolving at the right pace. Some evolve so quickly that you're just getting used to one product and then product 1B, C, 3, 4 has moved on and you can't catch up. So it's evolving. It feels like an extension of our team. This was a team meeting we had last Monday. Hakan had gone by that point. Too much down, more 15. No, we had a flight to catch. I do joke. And it feels like an extension of our team, and it's passionate, it's open, and also the other bit is full of ideas. So, we were speaking the other day and he came up with another idea that we're now going to look at single malt in another category. So you feel like you've got someone on your side, you feel like they're an extension, and lots of people promise that, but the reality is it doesn't happen very often. So I think we're in a wonderful place. And what that does right across the team that we deal with and work with, that sort of passion comes through, and that shows the sort of signs of a company you want to work with. I think for me, if someone puts in something in my diary for 2 hours, I lose the plot. 3 hours, game over. I like 15 to sort of 30 minutes. My Canadian colleague who manages Canada, the longest meeting we've had in the last year was 25 minutes on the phone on Teams. It's really weird. Normally it's about 13 minutes. That's my patience. I move on quickly. I have lots of ideas. A lot of those ideas never get tested because they're just sitting in my head. And this is where the BoltChatAI function changes. It empowers us to have those ideas and creativity rather than having to wait for long projects to happen, which will have massive big budgets, timelines, and those little ideas, that's where the miracles are. That's where the beautiful insights sit and hide. It's about the connective tissue between consumer and shopper and different categories. And the human quotes and storytelling, again, add another level to that in a matter of hours. We did one recently, not this one, but another one in California. And I was sitting watching the site in the morning. Now, I'd run it too early this side of the pond. I started at 9 o'clock, which was silly because they're -8 hours. But once it started getting into 9 o'clock, I could see people adding. That was almost 12 hours in, we were halfway there. And after 24 hours, we've got this amazing report back with richness. So the bit for me, I mean, this is the report that we run. Decoding Scotch, single malt and blended whiskey gifters. From an objective point of view, we're looking at consumer perceptions and misconceptions relating to Scotch in that market. And there are a lot of misconceptions across both malt and blended. Looking at origin, production methods, and then what's really nice is a burning question, a really clear question here. You know, what factors, whether it's origin, production, do you consider most important when choosing between single malt and blended whiskies? So it's very, very clear what the objective is. This is where, if you sort of think of your teams, and you know, I report into a CCO who hasn't got a lot of time, therefore I need to do sort of quick insights. The ability of this to give an AI summary that very quickly will give you 3 or 4 lines of text which summarizes the whole piece of work, done, dusted. You could even text that. I have texted the summary before, because as you know, C-suite and email gets lost, and it could take weeks to ever be found again, whereas the old-fashioned text and people in their 60s seems to still work. Whereas that goes through, but then if you think of your teams, if you've got a team managing, you can look into sort of projective analysis, but then if you've got your analysts, your geeks who want to get into the data, it's all there. So it's a fantastic piece of work, and something that we're not actually that long in using it. We've done some other work with Bolt, but we're not long in using BoltChatAI, but it's going to be a part of our way of working going forward. These are some of the verbatims, and I hate reading off screens, but I will actually do it this time. So this is the AI summaries that come straight off the tool. After 24 hours, this is what comes out, and this you could just copy and paste this over. So I've looked at sort of 4 key takeaways here. So occasion, the difference between single malt blended, the nature of the occasion, social context and personal taste. And it's the difference between casual setting through to that special events, and that changes the need for blended versus single malt. And also current mood comes in significantly here. Authenticity and part of a repertoire. Obviously the aging process is something unique to what we have in Scotland, low temperatures. A lot of other countries can't have high aged expressions, particularly America, because it's too warm. So the fact that it's Scotland, miserable, has rained for the last 3 or 4 months, is actually pretty good weather for single malt, both growing grain and actually single malt maturing. So the aging process, older age variants, the authenticity, quality comes through, but there's also appreciation of other whiskies. And that's something we need to. Sometimes you can sit and think, oh, they only buy our products. You know, American whiskey, Japanese whiskey, Canadian, American single malt. There's a lot of, it's now Swedish single malt, French single malt, so there are lots of other people coming, so that repertoire is ever expanding. The emotional connection, sensorial and cultural associations, and seen as sophisticated, particularly when gifting. So that's an important thing when you're trying to impress people, which also might be a gifting for yourself to impress someone else that you're going to end up consuming. So that comes through a lot. And then there's diversity of flavors and some diversity, inclusive marketing, and that broader demographic, including both women and younger cohorts. And there's been a massive effort made. We've got master distillers coming through in a lot of industries with women, and it's moving in the right direction. It's still got an awful long way to go, but we've also got younger drinkers coming into this category, and we need to change some of the bias and sort of historical, it's an old man's drink. So that's the sort of headline. So those are the copy and pastes you could copy to a senior manager. These are some of the quotes. So first place was because my dad's go-to drink. Come and enjoy it. You get, it's an old man's drink. When I've driven it in public, receive strange looks from people who don't understand why. So still those misconceptions that still seen as that dad's drink. Birthdays, anniversaries. I think one of the interesting one was there's an age 22 female. I visited the distillery and saw the entire process. It made me appreciate the beverage even more. So that's really interesting. How do we convey, and everybody's trying, but how do you convey that distillery visit that's in Scotland that very few Americans are going to see? So how do you sort of convey that in your marketing? This one at the bottom is really interesting. I don't get any drunk anymore. I like to sip and indulge. So there's that point where people move between sort of lower price blended through to high age blended, high age single malt that happens sometimes by default. A couple more quotes here. And the quality of standards, aged in oak, harshness is removed. I like this one. My friend Dylan introduced me to Scotch. He also got me into cigars. So interestingly, one of my favourite products, and I do drink not just our own products, but Dalmore cigar malt. And actually for me, when I drink that at home versus when I drink that in a restaurant or a nice bar, it tastes different. So that's about sensorial messaging and how things can change in this category when different settings. So it's so important to understand that. So you've got a level below now where, and this is the final slide here, where we can look at projective analysis. So you've got that top line AI summary. You've then got all those verbatims that could be a selling story, could be used for anything to enrich your selling stories and presentations. And then you've got projective analysis. And this is where it will go into a further depth and further probe past the AI summary. So how does Scotch identify as a product of Scotland, influence perceptions? And again, that's going into the appeal of Scotch, the repertoire, and whether they actually see Scotland as Scotland's an important identity for Scotch. And some cases, as we found, Scotch doesn't actually translate to from Scotland for some Americans because it's seen as a sort of catch-all word like Hoover, for example. What attracted you to whiskey and your taste involved? So again, around family connections and experiences. And then the final one, what distinguishes Scotch from other whiskies? So this allows you to probe a tier below that AI summary. So I think the bit for us and where we're working with Bolt is the fact that we've got with one set of reports that runs over that 24-hour period, I can now get people at different levels with the same story, and you can build a selling story. You've built something at a high level that can engage with and answer a question from C-suite. And that's where, when I said at the beginning about this being a game changer, and now reality is it is a game changer because we're running more and more of these every week.
I think I can just support that with another example. We were doing this study about electric cars and asked the same question almost in a survey versus this BoltChatAI conversation. We asked people like, why would you prefer electric cars? And we listed all, the standard answers, examples like sustainability, design, performance, and all these things that were actually requested from our client. And then when we asked that same question in a conversation, we actually heard people with a significant number of people saying Elon Musk. Whether you like him or not is a separate thing, but people were saying, and then AI was asking why, and they were saying, the guy wants to go to Mars and builds rockets, of course I will choose his cars. So it's very interesting, something you wouldn't necessarily be able to get in a survey format. It completely unlocked a separate insight compared to surveys. And I think, especially when it comes to intimate topics, like really interesting topics, people actually open up more in a conversation, and especially in a text-based conversation, because we also run tests with text versus voice and video. And what we found out is actually, compared to especially video, people feel much more secure and anonymous when it comes to text-based communication, and they share and open up more. When it comes to video, although in some cases we can also collect videos, but in some cases it can give you interesting insights, like emotional analysis and stuff. But when it comes to the actual truth, what we have seen is in video, people might be either the best version of themselves, or you're only speaking to a certain number of people who are naturally, biased in a way that they're comfortable to show up in a, video interview format. Text, in that sense, gave the most candid responses in our tests. Thank you for listening us. And if you have any specific questions, now we can answer them, but about also spirits, whiskey, and Scotch, please reach out to Connor for actually free pilot with BoltChatAI. You can also reach out to me, and we will be happy to support you as well. Thank you.
And I'm just interested to know, so you're asking the question, you're coming up with the parameters of study to kind of then go out there and get the answer via AI. Have you ever kind of considered sort of AI almost kind of clarifying what the question is first, or kind of setting the parameter of the question in the first place, if that makes sense?
AI starts with the discussion guide question in the way that you have defined it, but we have built this model in the background where AI moderator and there's an AI referee who understands, like who monitors the conversation between AI and human based on quality, relevance, and length of responses, and tells the AI moderator to probe further. So it can create more unique, questions and probing when it, comes after the initial discussion guide question. It can decide even to go a bit further unless you gave specific probing instructions. It can go even to, using projective techniques as I described as well, or ask people to elaborate on their answer. So one example I just remembered, in one of the personal care studies, it was asking what sort of new ingredients people are using for their face care. And one of the respondents said, I use hydrochloric acid. And then AI was actually correcting the person, did you mean hyaluronic acid? And then, the conversation carried on, which was an excellent example for us. Maybe I should showcase that more, but it actually picked up because the AI referee was telling moderator, this is out of context, can you ask for clarification?
I would say the system, when you're applying it online, it really forces you to think. It forces what is that critical question. So it actually makes you think, where you could very easily just go off on a tangent. So it really holds you back in.
I think picking up on that question really, have you found it's useful when you know there's an issue by the impact? Let's be positive. A huge surge in sales in the country, but you don't quite know why, so you can't define the brief. Have you used it to try and understand what the question should be before you understand what the question should be? It's almost like in the past you might have done a pre-study and then another, so you're developing your hypothesis as you're learning at the same time.
I would say there's one, I'll not go into it, but there's one example that we did use, and we didn't change the brief for the subsequent questions, but we learned so much from it. It's enriched a slightly different question that we're now taking to retailers. So again, and there's one in California, there was a couple of verbatims and made me completely think differently about an occasion. So actually, I think it's the richness of I think going back to what Hakan said, it's amazing how, I was so surprised how open people will be in this forum and how much personal information, it's quite personal things for them, and that's really, really powerful, because then you can learn from those verbatims, and that leads to the next question. And luckily for Bolt, it leads to me buying more credits. So it's a sort of a win-win all round. But yeah, there's so much, and and that's why there's different levels that you make sure that everybody in your teams looks at it, from the AI summary right down to all the verbatims and the stories. The stories are in there waiting to be found.
And the other thing, I always, encourage our clients to use this tool in a bit of a iterative way. So the fact that it can do like hundreds consumer interviews at a time doesn't mean you always need to start with that. You can actually do like 10, 20, learn, see how the conversations go, because you can actually download all the transcripts grouped by respondent and questions at the end of the report. So you can actually look how the conversations panned out, and then you might do some tweaks, rerun it again. So it gives you that flexibility to approach things iteratively. And also, like, more and more we do a lot of hybrid projects. So I think as part of segmentations, even tracking, we do now hybrid trackers. The thing with tracking studies, like there's a lot of quant questions out there. You do that tracking, you learn you get some signals, the what, but you build hypotheses, but you don't know the why. So combining it with quant helps you to get behind that what data and understand the why behind it. Thank you very much for listening to us.